neon lights, they flicker there. A million hearts beat quicker there. No skies are gray on the great wide way, 'cause that's the Broadway melody.
Hey, thanks for clicking in. I'm Jason Crawford Samuel,
And I'm Patrick J. Golden.
and this is Backstage Banter. So for this episode of Backstage Banter, we are going to be discussing Wait Until Dark at Everyman Theater. And Wait Until Dark is written by Frederick Knott. It is directed by Donald Hicken, with set design by Daniel Ettinger, lighting design by Jay Herzog, sound design by Patrick Calhoun, and costume design by Ben Argenta Kress. Now, Wait Until Dark made its Broadway debut in 1966, and it was starring Lee Remick, Robert Duvall, and Mitchell Ryan, a couple names you might recognize. And then, a year later, starring the fabulous Miss Audrey Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, Alan Arkin, and Richard Crenna. Again, a couple names you might recognize. Now, there are a lot of aspects that went into this Everyman Theater production that made it a very successful piece.
First, I guess we should touch on the set design by Daniel Ettinger. His use of the space and the levels was great in the fact that the characters could easily and freely move about the stage, and you had no doubt in your mind that this was a basement apartment in Greenwich Village in New York City. And the very authentic set pieces, like the baby blue Frigidaire with no sharp corners and that was loud as hell when the door opened. I mean, yeah. You had no doubt in your mind about the time and place this was taking place.
No, yeah, this is a period piece, and Mr. Ettinger did a very good job. I mean, like, as you mentioned, the Frigidaire, baby blue Frigidaire, down to the rotary telephone next to the stairs. His attention to detail and, you know, his eye for detail was very impressive, and it was a very clever set, and it was nice to look at. He did a very good job with the set design. And going on with technical aspects, lights and sound. Again, lights by Jay Herzog and sounds by Patrick Calhoun. Now, I'm not sure how these two gentlemen work, but it seems as though they worked very closely together because lights and sounds meshed perfectly together, or near perfect together, in this production. It had a very cinematic feel to it, and I'm a traditionalist when it comes to theater. I think I've mentioned before. I don't mind, you can paint a tree on a canvas and I'll be happy with it. But this cinematic feel that this production had just worked. It worked perfectly. It was very authentic, from the city sounds outside to footsteps walking down the hall, breaking glass, rattling doors. Everything worked very well together. And lighting and sound set the mood for this piece. Now, this is a thriller suspense piece, and the lights and sound was very important because it was a film noir kind of feel that made it very suspenseful, had you on the edge of your seat. These two gentlemen, Mr. Herzog, Mr. Calhoun, they made a very impressive team.
And just to go off that, the soundtrack for this show was great. It blended perfectly. In fact, the best way I can describe it, it was unnoticeable in the best way. And that being said, you didn't notice the music and all, but the use of dramatic chords, among other things, just raised the tension and amplified any other emotion going on.
Right, and you didn't even realize it.
Right.
And that they blended so nicely together, just like a film.
Yes.
Again, that cinematic feel. So, very good work from these two gentlemen. Costume design.
Oh, right. Ben Argenta Kress. He did flippin' phenomenal on this. I mean,
yes, he did.
These costumes, they didn't look rented or tailor-made. These look like something the characters went out to their store, found they bought off the rack, and put it on, and that's what they wore. I mean, and the fit and style, too, again, just left you with no question of when the time and place this was going. The authenticity just runs through the show, and it's
right.
Really
that
good.
was a theme that ran through the show. Authenticity, everything was so realistic. It was really good, and to continue with add on to the costumes, Mr. Kress had a very good eye for detail as well. From the saddle shoes from the upstairs neighbor girl to the high waistline of our protagonist. Everything was very appropriate and period, and it all blended in well together with all of the other aspects of the show. To slightly move into performance, let's talk about Mr. Donald Hicken with his direction. I thought this was a very genuine, well thought out show. I think he really he understood this piece, and it really showed in his vision. And even though it's a suspense horror kind of piece, I wouldn't even say horror per se, but suspenseful kind of piece.
Thriller.
A thriller. It was a thriller. Hicken knew when to interject a little bit of humor in, as not to overwhelm the audience with all of that dread and suspense and the thrills, and he'd bring your heart rate up so far and then give you just enough to kind of calm down. And I thought that worked very well for this piece, and I think he did a really good job in guiding this whole production.
And just to simply say, to put on a thriller on the stage is extremely difficult in of that itself. I mean, in movies, the cinematography, a camera can pan, and then all of a sudden there's someone standing behind the main character for the jump scare, where here, it's all live and in your face and unfolding before you, and you're still seeing everything happen. You're on the edge of your seat biting your nails.
Right. There were many times when I kind of wanted to stand up and yell at the people on stage, "This is what's happening," but you couldn't. Of course, I'm sure that would have... Many people would have frowned upon that, but it worked, and they did their job. It worked for this piece. That's exactly what you're supposed to feel, and that's exactly what I did feel. And his blocking, he kept it moving. He used those levels and kept it interesting and entertaining, as well as all the feelings that you had with the suspense and tension and what have you. Now there is a fight scene that's in this that's in a very intense part of the show. And there's a fight choreographer was Lewis Shaw, and it was a good fight scene, but I had a couple of problems with it. Mainly, it was a long fight scene, but it was broken up. And I think those pauses that were in the middle of this scene, I lost the momentum. I lost the intensity with that. I would have rather it had been just one big fight scene or a shorter fight scene, but when it broke up, that's when I lost the momentum.
I kind of liked it. Obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know what the decision was, but it did seem like a chance for the audience to catch their breath because it was so intense. The fight would start, you'd be like, and then there'd be the pause, and you get that exhale, and it would happen a few times, so you would get your breath trapped in your throat, but yeah, it did give you a chance to breathe, and I liked it. I did.
Yeah, it was a good fight scene. It was good. Again, I guess I would like to have gone throughout. That's all. But Mr. Shaw did a great job with his choreography. Going into the performance aspect now, we have Mr. Arturo Tolentino, who played Sam, the ever-supportive husband of our protagonist. And this part was more of a supporting role, but Mr. Tolentino, he played it to the hilt. He made the most of this part. And even though he didn't have a lot of stage time, his character was a very intricate part of this story. But his performance was it was respectable performance. He gave 100%, and he was totally into this character, which made it all more believable. And that also takes us into Todd Schofield, who played Carlino, who is a kind of disgraced, rough and gruff NYPD detective from 1944, and Mr. Schofield did a fantastic job with this role. He looked the part, he sounded the part, and I totally believed him. I totally believed that he was this gruff police officer from 1944 New York City. He did a really, really good job on that. Then that takes us into the character of Gloria. Now, Gloria was played by two young ladies. One was, and I apologize profusely because I'm probably butchering this name. One was Ui-Seng Francois, or Ui-Seng Francois, and the other was Shannon Hutchinson. Now, the night that we saw it, we had the pleasure of seeing Ui-Seng Francois, and she did a bang-up job. This young lady really seemed to understand her character. She was comfortable, she was confident in her performance, And, you know, she held her own. She was younger, I believe, than most of the other cast, but she held her own against this cast. Now, the character itself, she plays this young lady who lives upstairs, and she's really bratty, but I think she didn't have a great home life, so she's acting out. And Miss Francois did a great job portraying that in her performance. But I think this character ended up being one of my favorite characters because of the change, of the transition this character makes. She starts off as this bratty, mouthy, flippant young lady who ends up actually being a trusted ally for our protagonist and helps her through all of her troubles and woes and what have you, and really is an intricate part in helping her. And she seemed to have grown up in the process of all this. This character seemed to have grown up during this show, and I really ended up liking it. And I am really looking forward to seeing much more from this young lady, Ui-Seng Francois. Give a very impressive performance, and I can't wait to see more work from her.
Yes, I completely agree. And that takes us on to Bruce Randolph Nelson, who portrays the character of Mr. Rote, who is this shady, tough guy, gangster type. And I mean, from the moment he comes on the stage, he just is great at casting the sense of dread out. And to go along with that, his character also disguises himself as two different people throughout the show that are not only completely different of his character, but of each other, and all within mere moments of each other, and it's completely seamless and great. And do you have anything you want to add to that?
Nah, he gives a really, again, authentic performance as this nasty gangster type person, and you know, you love to hate him. He's that character that when he steps on, you don't like him, but you don't mind that you don't like him. But he plays it very confidently, and he's very comfortable, and he just gives a very, very good performance as this character. Takes us into Mr. Eric M. Messner, who takes on the role of Mike. Now, Mike is a character who may not be what he seems, but then again, many of these characters in this production may not be who they seem. But his character is likable. He plays a seemingly World War II soldier coming back home, and he's very authentic. Again, authenticity is a theme that runs throughout this entire production, but he does a very good job being that guy that walks into the room and you like. He does a very good job with the chemistry between him and the protagonist. He's kind of like a knight in shining armor, and he pulls it off very well. He's confident. You know, he has a very good command of the stage. And yeah, again, like I said, he's just a very likable person, has a soothing, booming voice that resonates through the theater. And I think he did a bang-up job with his performance.
I completely agree with that. I mean, from the moment the door opened and he came in, he just had this metaphorical aura about him. Like, he was one of those people that could just brighten up a room. And like you said, he was so friendly. As soon as he walks in, you like him already within a few words, and you don't even know the guy.
Right. Yeah, he gave a fantastic performance. Now, that leaves us with Miss Megan Anderson, who plays Susan, our protagonist. Now, Megan Anderson, she is definitely the highlight of this production, as well she should be. She really takes the reins of this and is kind of the glue that keeps this production together. But she gives an amazing performance. She really does. Now, her character of Susan is interesting because Susan is a disabled character. She's blind, and she wasn't born blind, but happened to get a car accident, they explain, and she ends up losing her sight. But her performance as this disabled character was spot on. She didn't falter once from her blindness at all. I ended up totally believing that this person was a blind person trying to make her way through this apartment. And it was all in the details. Reaching around her apartment, bumping into the same thing repeatedly. It was a very dedicated performance that was just, it was amazing. And that's the only word I can think of right now. And it was a joy. She was a joy to watch. I cannot wait to see more from her.
And just to add on to those small details, like, when she was addressing another character, she was looking at them, but you could tell she was not seeing them. She was just at the origin of sound. Again, just goes to show you completely forgot this was an actress playing a blind woman, and you thought you were really watching a blind woman in this situation.
I really like the character because she starts off as someone who is seemingly helpless. You know, she is blind. She knows she's blind. She wants to be independent, but is seemingly helpless. By the end of this, she is a very independent, on her own kind of lady, and that was a really, really good character change that I really enjoyed. So, final thought: this is a very well thought out, well put together production. Go see it; you will not be disappointed with it. Now, if you want to read the written review, you can go to backstagebaltimore.wordpress.com and see what we thought. You can leave you can tell us what you thought. Leave a message on the page, backstagebaltimore.wordpress.com, or leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. So, Wait Until Dark runs through October 9th at Everyman Theater, which is at 315 West Fayette Street. And you can get tickets online by going to Everyman Theater, that's theater with an R-E, everymantheater.org, or you can give them a call at their box office at 410-752-2208. Again, you don't want to miss this one. This is certainly a gem in current Baltimore theater.
Absolutely.
So until next time, this is Backstage Banter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Business like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing. Everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere can you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know of gold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still you wouldn't trade it for